So it's now my pleasure to introduce the next session, which is by Associate Professor Tom Cochrane. Tom joined us, the Melbourne Centre for the Study of Higher Education, earlier this year. He's an expert in education, technology-enhanced education, and we're extremely happy to have him at the centre. He's still based, though, physically based in New Zealand, and we're very much looking forward to having him here at Melbourne when it's appropriate, when he can. So today Tom's going to be talking about supporting technology-enhanced learning, professional development and accreditation, and particularly about rebooting CMALT and eMOOC network, and he'll tell you about that. So thanks very much, Tom.
Great, thanks, Chi. So you should be able to see my screen now, which has a QR code in the middle of it. And that's a link to some notes for this presentation. So if you've got a smartphone or a tablet with a camera, you can probably just turn your camera application on, point it at that QR code, and it will take you to this page, which is basically just a series of links that I'm going to present today. So as Chi has said, I'm actually presenting remotely from Auckland in New Zealand, or Tamaki Makaurau in Aotearoa. And I started working remotely for the Centre for Study in Higher Education at Melbourne University on the 15th of April. So it's been an interesting way to start a job, to not actually be there and to really only get to know people through technology and remotely. So I guess that's kind of relevant to my presentation as well. So just below the QR code, you will see there's a short link, which is a tiny URL. So if you don't have a QR code reader, you can just write this down. It is case sensitive, so the only capital letter there is the S for E-Symposium, tinyurl.com/E-Symposium. So really what I want to talk about is a 7-week CMOOC. A CMOOC is a connectivist MOOC, so trying to distinguish it from the types of MOOCs that have really sort of become popular in education, which we'd class as XMOOCs, which are really effectively the large lecture version of online education, where it's a one-to-many, and it's about content delivery. Whereas the CMOOC is really around the original idea of MOOCs, which came out of Canada in the early 2000s. And it was about connecting people. It was about sharing ideas, about sharing expertise, about creating a community, not about a delivery of content as such. And in fact, Cormier talks about the community is the curriculum. So what we're trying to do with the CMALT CMOOC is actually provide a supporting community, a network of people internationally who are interested in CMALT accreditation. So what is CMALT? Well, let's look at the first link there. So CMALT came out of the Association for Learning Technology based in the UK about 15 years ago. It came out about the same time as Advanced HE or HEA Fellowship, as it used to be called. And effectively it was a response to the Deering report coming out of the UK on the state of UK higher education and the need for really some professional development and professional accreditation systems for teaching in higher education. So the UK Standards Professional Framework came up with a list of effectively core competencies or capabilities that tertiary educators or higher education educators should be able to demonstrate. And the HEA Fellowship or Advanced HE Fellowship and CMALT were two ways of providing some professional development to meet those standards. So CMALT stands for the Certified Member of the Association for Learning Technology. And you can see on their page there, there's a lot of info there. It's been around for quite a long time. They've just introduced end of last year, 3 levels. So there's currently 4 levels for Advanced HE. There are now 3 levels for CMALT, if you have heard of CMALT before. Now there's an entry level, associate CMALT, there's standard CMALT, and then senior CMALT. And senior CMALT really is for those with significant leadership or research experience in learning technology. So the LT stands there for learning technology. So what CMALT really is about accrediting your skills, your capability, your expertise in teaching with technology and using technology to teach. So it's a little bit different to HEA Fellowship, which is much more generic around teaching skills and capabilities. It is mapped to exactly the same professional standards, but woven throughout the CMALT accreditation process is a core around learning technology and willingness to keep up to date and share that. So there is a list of holders of the old website, and there's currently only around 500 people globally with CMALT accreditation, so a lot less than the Advanced HE, which is well over 100,000 now. Because it is much more targeted to, I guess, a specific literacy group around technology-enhanced learning. You don't have to be what would be termed an educational technologist or a technology nerd. If you are using technology in your teaching, as in fact everyone now is, you can put together a portfolio to get credit for your ability to use technology in education, whether that be at associate level, which is a basic level, to CMALT, or whether you're actually leading in that. And if we choose here senior, you'll see there's not a whole lot of senior fellows around. Currently there's only 5 globally. So some of the other frameworks that are around, as you can see, it's mapped to the UK Professional Standards Framework, and there is a mapping that I'll have done to Advanced HE. So these are all links on that Evernote page that I shared with you if you're missing where I am. And basically it aligns the CMALT accreditation framework with the core areas of Advanced HE Fellowship. So how the various 5 areas of activity map to the core areas of a CMALT portfolio. So it is portfolio based. How the core knowledge areas of Advanced HE map to the core areas of CMALT accreditation, and how the professional values map to the core areas of CMALT accreditation. So in the UK, because this has been around for a reasonable length of time, there are institutions that accredit both, and it is possible for people to get Advanced HE Fellowship and CMALT accreditation and hold both, because there's so much overlap between the two. This has been basically franchised to Australasia through Escalite about 2011, I think it was. So Escalite is the Australasian Society for Computers and Learning in Tertiary Education, if you haven't come across it before. As it says, based in Australasia, so Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, Asia. And basically there's a group of people through Escalite that have gained CMALT accreditation. As you can see, not a huge number, and in fact almost half of those were through Auckland University of Technology, where I was previously based. And so there's a huge opportunity. If you want to make your mark in learning technology and get credit for it, then CMALT accreditation might be very useful for you to be able to stand out in the crowd. So what about the CMOOC? Well, I've been running this for several years now, since about 2015, and effectively it's as I said, a community, an online community, and it's based around 7 weeks of communal collaborative activity. And on this ResearchGate page project, you can see some of the activity that we've done over the previous years, some of the research outputs, etc., based around it, if you want to have a look at it, and some of the theoretical underpinnings for why we've developed this professional development framework. So what I'm really keen to do is basically introduce this to Melbourne University of Melbourne, and see if we can get some people on board for the next round of our CMOOC, which will be launching in September. So we haven't set a date yet, but if you keep an eye on the cmaltcmooc.wordpress.com site, we'll be putting the date there very shortly. It will be in September. So effectively, what we do is each week we have an activity, which is effectively a triggering event. And this is what Cormier calls triggering events are activities in a rhizomatic framework. In other words, a decentralized teaching and learning pedagogical framework where it's not just all about the teacher, but it's actually about the participants being involved in collaborating, and the teacher's job is about designing some activities to make people think and get them on the right pathway. And so what we've done with the CMOOC is effectively break each week of the 7 weeks up into triggering events that focus people on one core aspect of a CMALT portfolio. So a lot of these are based around things like getting social media research profiles established and communicating asynchronously with participants all around the world. So each of those 7 weeks is mapped to a core area of the CMALT portfolio. So one of the ways that we get people participating, apart from we have a weekly webinar, is this what we call the project bank, where there is a section there for each of the 7 weeks, all the core activities, and we get people to share examples from their portfolios that they're developing and paste those there. And effectively what those are links to sections of people's developing portfolios online, and these can take a whole variety of forms. Effectively, these are just web links and a short description and icons to examples. So it's really about people contributing, collaborating, being part of this community. We have a discussion forum. We host this on a Moodle forum, and we try to get people engaging and posting comments and asking questions on that forum. We used to use Google Plus Communities, but of course they're dead and they no longer exist. So we've had to move on to different platforms. You can see some of the tools that we use to facilitate the CMOOC. There's a WordPress hub. We use the project bank. We use a Twitter hashtag or social media hashtag. The weekly webinars are hosted on YouTube with a playlist. We have a participant map, shows people around the world, and for various activities we have other hashtags. So this is our map of participants. You can see it is quite international. People all around the globe, whether they are being part of a group in an institution or they're doing this individually. Basically the CMOOC supports people to develop this community. And not all of these people have actually gone right ahead and gone for CMALT accreditation. A lot of these people just find being part of this community very valuable, and in fact there's quite a few people who've been part of this community every time we've run it, which I think now will be into its 5th iteration. So I guess this is in some ways a bit of a pitch to get people on board. There is a sign-up page from the site. If you click on the sign-up page, and you'll see it's just a short web form. If you're interested in being part of the CMALT CMOOC, and in these current situations where we are fully online, this may be one way of either learning about some new tools, put into your pedagogical toolkit, or andragogical toolkit, or hudagogy toolkit, wherever you're at, or getting accreditation, recognition for your skills in this area, your research, your expertise, and sharing that with others or mentoring others. And you can see we have facilitators from all around the world, from Coventry University, Germany, New Zealand, etc. So basically the sign-up form, we obviously need to know who you are, so a name, an email that you check so we can sign you up for the various community tools, a blog address which basically will become your e-portfolio, and we do suggest WordPress if you don't currently have one, Twitter so that we can communicate asynchronously, because as I've said, this is an international community and people all around the world, and Ian's always in bed when I'm awake and vice versa, except when I get him to stay up late and be on one of our webinars. So that's the brief overview of the CMALT CMOOC, and happy to throw it open to questions.
Hey, great. Thanks, Tom. I'm very interested in a phrase that you said before, the community is the curriculum. I'm interested to hear how curriculum design and development goes when it's community led without, one or two sort of leaders of that. And one thing that struck me about both yours and Neera's presentation is that sort of focus on community. So for Neera's, it was a peer-based, peer-led community that's really driving the program in arts, and with your CMALT, CMOOC, it's the community of experts or practitioners. So before I ask my questions, I might throw it out for people in the audience, in the Zoom audience, wherever you are. Any questions for either Neera or Tom? So first, looking through the chat, Tom, a lot of enthusiasm, particularly from Kate about Ascolite and CMALT. Lorenko asks, can PhD students participate in the CMOOC?
Yes, and in fact, basically all my PhD students have been part of the CMOOC as well, and they've got a lot out of it. Yeah, so definitely.
And are there plans for CMALT, CMOOC to integrate or speak to Canvas? Are you aware of, Tom?
No, because it's an international community and we can't have paywalls that people can't access through. So if we have an institutional system that we host content or discussions through, then only those people in that institution with those logins can participate. So it just doesn't make any sense. That's why we're using open platforms, and also we're trying to mentor and model sort of an open educational resource, open educational practice methodology as well. So we're trying to practice what we preach by the tools we use. So there was a question there, if you don't have Twitter or a blog, can you still sign up? It does make it difficult because those are the core tools that we're using to facilitate the community. So, if you're adverse to creating an e-portfolio or a Twitter account, then if you're wanting to join the community, then at least give it a try for the link for the 7 weeks and then decide whether it's for you or not. Because as I say, it's an international community. We need to be able to communicate asynchronously, etc. Okay.
So, Tom, can you tell me about how the curriculum development or design process happens from a community? Can you explain the community is the curriculum bit of that?
Well, that was Dave Cormier's phrase around defining rhizomatic learning. And a rhizome is a bit like a tuber. It's like a potato or a kumara that has a whole lot of sprouts growing off it, and the idea is that it's not just about the central hub, but it's about all those shoots, offshoots that contribute to the life of the rhizome. So I guess obviously it's structured. So I've put it together, we've structured it, and we've mapped it to the CMALT accreditation. So it certainly has structure. But what we're wanting to do is to get people to contribute to that and create a conversation and a community around it. So going beyond that set structure to individuals' contexts, that's the key, is how people get involved, is how do I apply this to my context, and not just to physiotherapy or paramedicine or journalism. How can I cross-seed my ideas from journalism to paramedics, etc.? So that's kind of the idea.
Thanks. So Meredith is asking about whether you can explain MossoMelt that's in the information references in the sign-up.
So MossoMelt is another CMOOC that we run, which is focused on mobile and social media. So it's an acronym for that. It's not a cheese toasty. It's mobile and social media and learning technology. But there is a question for Neera. I better let.
Yeah, thanks very much. So